Kaya, you've been in conversation with some experts. What are the expectations in terms of the crime trends towards the festive season?
Well, Thulasizwe, I can tell you this much. We had an opportunity of speaking to the Institute for Security Studies experts, and they were very clear that during the course of the festive season, there may be a spike. This is largely triggered by a number of reasons. We know that people get more, bonuses and more money is just at disposal. But more interestingly now, there is a call for the police department perhaps to look at the options of establishing units in police stations strictly dedicated to focusing on street robberies. We know that for some time now the Minister of Police, Bheki Cele, has been lauding the police for doing a very sterling job in reducing the crime in as far as the cash transit heist is concerned. But now the plea is around making sure that so that the South Africans can feel the impact, there should be these units dedicated around so that South Africans also during the course of the festive season can see a bit of a joyous time as opposed to, the fear that largely at times characterize this particular time.
In fact, you're calling it South Africans having a bit of a joyous time during the festive season. Not so long ago, just about an hour ago, the acting Gauteng Police Commissioner spoke of Gautengers experiencing their best festive season ever in as far as safety is concerned. So what is the expert view on what it will take to reverse some of the trends that we have seen, for instance, in increases in bank robberies and robberies, cash in transit robberies?
They are stating in no uncertain terms that as much as you can have police visibility, so what the police should do instead is to focus a lot in some of the hot spots whereby you may have some certain areas that are considered or perceived to be crime hot spots. So a lot of focus and dedication should be paid in those areas, but also more importantly, making sure that police pay more attention. The intelligence units within SABS is really just working so hard in trying to crack down in those areas as opposed to having police roaming around, because as much as they can make arrests there, it's really just scratching at the surface. So they need to go and delve even more deeper by getting into the very networks, the syndicates that are planning, that are sitting down and mapping out what to do. So it's really interesting also, Thulasizwe, how the experts are breaking down, still just going back to the point about the street robberies. So they're saying it's almost like a training ground for some cash in transit heist perpetrators who often get the training in the ground by, just taking people's possessions down in the CBDs, like in areas like Johannesburg and other areas. And really that's causing a lot of fear within South Africans. So that's also another perception that is coming across, that as much as police from time to time are speaking about steady progress being made in certain areas, but if essentially you want to really just tackle crime, you have to focus on some of the key areas like contact crimes, issues like car hijacking, and also the housebreaking. So then you can really make a huge impact.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point that you make there from the conversations you've been having with the experts such as Gareth Newham about the whole issue around street robberies being almost like an entry into the world of crime, as it were, and perhaps people graduating, quote unquote, from that to crimes such as cash and transit heists. What about this category that's called contact crimes, which does include such, crimes as assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, but also, more worryingly in South Africa, sexual offences. What are the expectations there, and what are some of the tips that the experts are saying should be utilized approaching the festive season?
Well, that's right, Thulasizwe. Those are some of the crimes that are really affecting South Africans in a very big way. So the experts are saying, look, as much as they can see the passion exuding from the police minister, and we know of the limited resources that are right in their disposal in trying to tackle this issue. But they should really just work around making sure that they clearly identify some of the priorities, as opposed to just having a blanket approach where police are just moving around without really clearly identifying as to what would be some of the areas that they would be working on. So it's really interesting what the experts are saying, but also in terms of the police themselves. You know that recently they launched a community policing strategy, which is essentially about strengthening community policing forum. Very key partners in the fight against crime, working hand in hand with police. And during the course of the season, it's going to be really interesting to see South Africans really whether are they going to feel the impact of some of the new strategies. And, you know, it's always interesting to listen to the Police High Commissioner, General Sithole, when he says he's a man of very few words. He does believe in making sure that they implement these strategies. So he really doesn't want to say much in terms of really just being a mouth-to-mouth, so to speak. But he really believes in making sure that the police are out in the ground and also be able to proactively tackle these crimes. But also, Tila, it was quite interesting. We had a walkabout in Johannesburg CBD where we were speaking to the people of Johannesburg. So another area that is coming across is the speed of the police in terms of their response. So more often than not, people will phone the police, but now in terms of the response, at times it's not a very interesting response. So police are responding on time, and that could be attributed to a number of reasons. The resources at their disposal, whether are they able to effectively maximize the resources that they have in making sure that they deal with these issues. But also, more interestingly, it's the issue of corruption, that some of the police officers are taking bribes, for example. So it's really interesting also to hear from the point of view of SAPS management when they say from time to time they do away with some of the rotten apples within their ranks.
All right, Khayelitsha Khumalo, thank you so much sharing those insights there with us. Well, you can look out for Kaya's full report, of course, a bit later on here on ENC.